Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. The latest move in the GOP's probe into President Biden's classified documents. What's leading them to turn their focus back to the Penn Biden Center, where the documents were first found. Former President Trump is keeping his eye on the White House as he races toward the 2024 election. What he says about America's future and his stance on China. And the new Republican-led House kicks into action. We examine one of their major moves, a Tough on China committee, and how it might address what some are calling an extremely precarious situation. Prosecutors are now accusing Brian Walsh of killing his wife after she disappeared on New Year's Day. More disturbing details were made public in court today. And a California psychologist questioned transgenderism for children at a local school board meeting. She says the state then threatened her license. Republicans are zeroing in on Chinese ties to the Penn Biden Center, where President Biden's classified documents were first found. NTD's Iris Tao has more on the records they're going after.
Republicans are refreshing their focus on the Penn Biden Center and what they call potential foreign influence. Congressman James Comer, the chair of the House Oversight Committee, on Wednesday sent a letter to the University of Pennsylvania. He's requesting detailed records of who had key card access to the Penn Biden Center, a visitor log of those who met with Biden there, along with a complete list of Chinese donors to the university and to the think tank. And the move comes amid reports that UPenn got tens of millions of dollars in donations from China, some from anonymous sources. While the university denies that the Penn Biden Center has ever solicited any gifts from China, some believe that Chinese money did go to the think tank.
China's not giving money to the University of Pennsylvania to pay for their music department. To be sure, they're giving it because they're hoping that it's used for international relations between the University of Pennsylvania and China, which the Biden Center is doing.
Meanwhile, the new inquiry comes as the White House attacks House Republicans for appointing members such as Paul Gosar, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Boebert to the Oversight panel, which is now spearheading GOP investigations into the Biden files.
It appears that House Republicans have handed over the keys to the most extreme MAGA members of the Republican caucus.
And the press secretary urging Republicans to come clean.
Not us. They should have to explain why allowing these individuals to serve on these committees and come clean with the American people.
But that call comes as the White House itself stonewalls any questions related to Biden's classified documents.
When it comes to even underlying facts, when it comes to specifics, when it comes to something that is under the purview, that the Department of Justice is looking at, especially legal matters, investigations, we do not comment from here.
And of course, both the House Oversight and Judiciary Committee are pressing for more answers, and so are the reporters. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
And former President Trump released a new campaign video today. In it, he vows to end Chinese purchases of U.S. farmland if re-elected in 2024. And that's not all he plans to do. NTD's Arlene Richards has more.
Former President Trump is gearing up for the campaign to get back in the White House. First, in a nearly 3-minute video released on Wednesday, Trump vowed to save America's economy.
China has been spending trillions of dollars to take over the crown jewels of the United States economy. The fact is, we should be very concerned about all Chinese communist activity in the United States.
He said the U.S. should enact aggressive new restrictions on Chinese ownership to protect America's infrastructure. And that including
energy, technology, telecommunications, farmland, natural resources, medical supplies, and other strategic national assets.
He warned that the U.S. should stop all future Chinese purchases and get back some of their current holdings, or
if we don't do this, the United States will be owned by China.
Trump's not only vowing to save America, but also working to get back his social media accounts. Last November, Twitter owner Elon Musk restored Trump's account after posting a poll asking if the former president's account should be reinstated. Trump has so far declined to use the Twitter account, touting the success of his own social media platform, Truth Social. But now, as he builds up his comeback campaign, Trump seems to be reconsidering. On Tuesday, NBC News reported that Trump's campaign petitioned Facebook's parent company to unblock his account. In a letter to the company, Trump's campaign requested a meeting to discuss the matter, citing the former president's free speech rights. Meta plans to announce a decision in the coming weeks. While Meta thinks it over, Trump has scheduled his first campaign rally in South Carolina. On January 28, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham and South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster plan to join Trump at the State House in Columbia. The former president is expected to announce his South Carolina leadership team. South Carolina Republican Representative Russell Fry told the AP he would attend the rally, saying Trump delivered for the American people before and can do so again. And according to at least one poll, it looks like Trump is off to a good start. A Morning Consult poll released on Wednesday showed Trump topping Florida Governor Ron DeSantis by 17 points in a hypothetical GOP primary matchup. 48% of potential Republican primary voters supported Trump, with 31% supporting DeSantis. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Amid tensions between the U.S. and China, the two countries' top economic officials met face-to-face at the World Economic Forum today, pledging to manage their differences and prevent the two nations from spiraling into conflict. Here's NTD's Melina Weiskup with more details.
America and China signaling that they're trying to improve their economic cooperation. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen met with China's top economic official in Switzerland during the World Economic Forum. Yellen, in her opening remarks, says that the two countries shouldn't allow misunderstandings that she says stems from a lack of communication between the two countries to unnecessarily worsen the bilateral economic and financial relationship between the two countries. Now, this comes after the U.S. recently took action aimed directly at China. The Commerce Department imposed rules that were meant to cut China off from being able to obtain or manufacture microchips. An expert telling me that it appears China is now feeling the impacts from those recently imposed rules.
These export controls are starting to have a downstream impact on the competitiveness of a number of Chinese technology companies. And that has got the attention of Chinese officials. And this is one reason, in my view, why they are now perhaps coming to the table a bit more ready to talk.
And the two powers' economies remain highly intertwined, even as concerns are continuing over China's continued espionage, military buildup, and threats towards Taiwan. At the same time, China is also continuing to invest in third world countries to expand its global economic influence.
And really what it has led to is a fight for the soul of the global trading system. Will it really be, will continue to unfold on these market-based, rules-governed terms, or will it unfold when governments are using unfair practices to gain economic advantage? In our view, the United States should be doing much more of this, much more proactively itself.
Yellen and Chinese official Liu He also agreed to cooperate on climate change initiatives and support for emerging markets and developing countries in their clean energy transitions. And in an effort to decrease the tensions between the two countries, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says she does plan to travel to China in the near future. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
And all this comes on the heels of a new select committee on China in the new House of Representatives. It's designed to tackle the strategic competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. Earlier today, I spoke with retired U.S. Army Colonel John Mills for his assessment. Mills is a member of the Committee on the Present Danger, China, and a former cybersecurity policy director for the U.S. Defense Department. Let's hear from him now. John Mills, welcome to our show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie. Always an honor to be on your show.
Now, the House's new China Competition Committee is expected to focus on issues like bringing jobs home, securing supply chains, and countering intellectual property theft. How effective do you think it will be?
Well, I think it will be quite effective. I think this will be an opportunity to, in an unfiltered manner, really address some of these core issues in the nation-state struggle between the Chinese Communist Party and the American-led world.
Now, we do already have some federal commissions on China. Why do you think we need this one?
Well, I think this one will be far more aggressive than some of the other. We've had a China commission for years. We've had a China military power report. DOD is required to put out an annual report on China. But I think a lot of this, I use the word filtering, and I don't mean that in necessarily a negative way, but it's the nature of Washington, D.C., that some of this gets really watered down. I think they have a new platform, a new venue and a megaphone to address the core issues. You know, like number one, fentanyl, which is a tool of the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, it is ripping apart the fabric of society in America, and it's intentional. We have to address that and call it for what it is.
Now, the committee has big bipartisan support, but 65 Democrats did vote against it, and some said they were concerned it could encourage anti-Asian hate in the U.S. What's your take?
I think that is utter silliness, and anybody who thinks that most reasoned people can differentiate between the Chinese people, the Chinese Americans, and the Chinese Communist Party. This is about the Chinese Communist Party. And just an asterisk there, I do want to shout out to the FBI that has had a number of recent, DOJ and FBI, we may not like them in certain other matters, but has had a number of indictments just in the last few months against actual coercion against those of Chinese heritage and actual Americans of Chinese heritage. They're being intimidated inside the United States by agents of the Chinese Communist Party. So, but those congresspeople who feel that Americans can't differentiate the two, that is I reject that out of hand.
Some advocates say a committee like this should have been put together a long time ago. Why do you think it wasn't?
Well, I mean, I think this is something that should have been, done years ago. I mean, President Trump definitely was in favor of this. The Congress was controlled by the Democrats, and some of them are captured. Some of them we are literally bought off, and some of them just don't know any better and fought against this. Again, in my work in national security, it wasn't until about 2014, 2015 where we realized, the Obama administration realized, it was the Office of Personnel Management data breach where they broke into the OPM files of the United States government, which contained essentially the personnel files of anyone ever associated with the United States government. And the Obama administration, it was the old view that everybody was like, if we just work with them, they'll be nice to us. It was the OPM breach where many woke up and realized, no, there is nothing we can do, and they are not nice players, and they are not willing to work in accordance with norms of world affairs as we saw them.
And what are your concerns surrounding rising tensions between the U.S. and China?
Well, one issue that has not gotten a whole lot of attention or airplay is the Biden decision to cut off chips last October to China. It was a good move. It was about 3 to 5 years after it should have been done. The Trump-Navarro team wanted to do this. This is a significant event. It is akin to the June 1941 cutoff of Japan from oil and rubber in Malaya by Roosevelt, which started the 6-month countdown to Pearl Harbor. These chips are the modern oil and rubber. This asphyxiates China. This is a extremely precarious situation.
So what do you think the timeline might look like here?
Well, with the cutoff of the chips, I would say essentially it's almost very similar to what happened in 1941 with that 6-month countdown to Pearl Harbor. Essentially, this significantly disrupts the Chinese economy by the cutoff of chips, because many of these chips are dual use. They're used both in the private sector and in military applications. And this asphyxiates China. And I would say by summertime, we will be, the military term, the national strategy term is a culminating point. That at that point, by summertime, I think China will be at a I think we'll possibly be at the point of direct conflict and war with China.
All right. John Mills, retired U.S. Army colonel and former cybersecurity policy director for the U.S. Defense Department. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. An honor to be with you.
An attorney for Derek Chauvin asked a Minnesota appeals court today to throw out the former Minneapolis police officer's convictions. Chauvin was charged in the murder of George Floyd. Chauvin's attorney argues that legal and procedural errors deprived Chauvin of a fair trial. The attorney says the trial judge should have moved the case out of Minneapolis. He cited the extensive pretrial publicity and the unprecedented security precautions that were taken because of protest fears. The appeals judge said the court would rule within 90 days. But even if Chauvin wins his appeal, his federal sentence would probably keep him in prison longer than his state sentence. And new information is coming out in the case of a Massachusetts woman who went missing on New Year's Day. Prosecutors accuse the husband of killing her and searching Google on how to get away with the crime.
On Wednesday, Brian Walsh was arraigned on charges of beating his wife to death, disposing of her body, and more. His wife, Anna Walsh, went missing on New Year's Day. Prosecutors presented evidence against Brian Walsh, saying he used his son's iPad for suspicious Google searches the same day.
He searched how long before a body starts to smell. At 4:58 a.m., how to stop a body from decomposing. At 5:20 a.m., he searched how to embalm a body.
The prosecutors went on to say that surveillance footage showed the suspect shopping at a Home Depot the following day.
Items included cleaning products, mops, brushes, tape, a Tyvek suit with boot covers, buckets, goggles, baking soda, a hatchet.
They also said that 2 days later, on January 4th, Anna Walsh's employer called local police to report her missing. Brian Walsh allegedly did not file a missing persons report. On January 8th, police went to the couple's home.
They found blood in the basement, a knife with the presence of blood. The knife was damaged. A second knife was also found in that basement. In addition, there was heavy-duty, large top plastic liners purchased from that Home Depot.
Anna Walsh has 3 young children, and a neighbor said she had never seen the couple upset. Brian Walsh's attorney did not contest bail, but in the past has said her client has cooperated with investigators. Reporting by Ariane Pazdar, NTD News.
In other crime news, disturbing new details about an LGBT activist couple accused of sexually abusing their young adopted sons and distributing homemade child pornography. The story first made headlines in August last year. A follow-up expose by Town Hall now claims the abuse was much worse than initially reported. According to a 17-count indictment obtained by Town Hall, the men allegedly solicited nearby pedophiles to engage in prostitution with one of the sons and sent pictures of the abuse to others over Snapchat. The 2 boys were adopted through a Christian special needs adoption agency and are now aged 9 and 11. The adoptive fathers are 33-year-old government worker William Dale Zulock Jr. and 35-year-old banker Zachary Jacoby Zulock. They're from Oxford, Georgia, a wealthy suburb in the Atlanta area. Both men have been indicted by a grand jury on charges of incest, aggravated sodomy, aggravated child molestation, felony sexual exploitation of children, and felony prostitution of a minor. William and Zachary are each facing over 9 life sentences. They've pleaded not guilty. The second installment of the report was released today, and 2 more are expected to follow later in the week. And a psychologist in California says that she had to leave the state after questioning transgenderism for children. She says her license was threatened by the state and that she was targeted and threatened by extremist groups.
Dr. Shanae Anderson, a clinical and forensic psychologist and native to Thousand Oaks, says she was forced to leave California after her license to practice was threatened after she spoke out against transgender ideology.
Adolescence is the time when identity is explored and begins to solidify. Prior to that time, children do not have the brain architecture and neural connections to understand abstract thinking.
Last June, Anderson confronted Conejo Valley Unified School, alleging that 8-year-olds were being exposed at school to sexual issues beyond their comprehension.
Introducing such complex subjects years before these children can comprehend creates confusion and misunderstandings that cause cognitive, emotional, and psychological issues that are leading them to my office.
During the meeting, she told the story of a patient who sought her help. She and the patient eventually discovered that domestic sexual abuse was the cause of the patient's body dysmorphia, and not because she was confused about her gender identity. Anderson, who has 23 years' experience, says she was forced to leave the state and move to Virginia last September. She says that she received multiple death threats and was targeted by left-wing extremist groups, including Antifa. The school board committee ended up filing a 51-page complaint against her to the California Board of Psychology. The complaint, which was obtained by the Epoch Times, alleges that Anderson is, quote, an imminent risk of substantial harm to students and families within the school district and to all residents within Thousand Oaks and Ventura County. Anderson is now the co-director for ethics and advocacy of the American Association of Christian Counselors. She says she isn't backing down, but rather taking her fight for liberty to the national level. Lang Zhang, NTD News, California.
And if you have any news tips or feedback for our show, you can email us at eveningnews@ntd.com. And coming up, 16 people died in a helicopter crash near Kyiv this morning, among them the Ukrainian Interior Minister. The cause of the accident is still unclear. And in college football recruiting, a coveted high school player is reportedly asking out of his commitment after his $13 million name, image, likeness deal fell through. That and more coming up.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turning now to international news. A fatal helicopter crash in Kyiv today killed 16 people, including 3 children. Ukraine's interior minister and his deputy were among the dead, but officials made no mention of Russian involvement.
At least 16 people were killed in a helicopter crash just outside Kyiv on Wednesday, including Ukraine's interior minister. It came down between this kindergarten in the eastern suburb of Provorov and a residential block. 3 children were among the dead, President Volodymyr Zelensky said, calling the crash a terrible tragedy. The pain is unspeakable, he said in a statement. Ukrainian officials said the cause wasn't immediately clear. They made no reference to any Russian attack in the area at the time. National Police Chief Ihor Klimenko confirmed that Interior Minister Denis Monastyrsky was killed. alongside his first deputy, Yevgeny Yanin, and other ministry officials on board. Monastyrsky was the most senior Ukrainian official to die since the war began. The French-made Super Puma helicopter was operated by the State Emergency Service. At least 6 people were killed on the ground, officials said, including the children. According to the regional governor, at least 29 were injured, 15 of them children. Air Force spokesperson Yuri Ihnat said it could take several weeks at least to investigate the disaster. Unfortunately, the sky does not forgive mistakes, he said.
Now over to sports news. Here's NTD's Dave Martin with today's top stories.
Thank you, Steph. Rafael Nadal is out at the Australian Open. The defending champion fell in straight sets to American Mackenzie McDonald, though injuries may have played a part in it. Nadal pulled up limp in the second set and was visited by a trainer. The 36-year-old said his hip had been bothering him for a couple of days, but was at its worst on Wednesday. Now, Nadal had an injury-plagued season last year, needing pain-killing injections in his foot during his French Open Championship run, and then pulling out of the Wimbledon semifinals with a torn abdominal muscle. And in the NHL, Philadelphia Flyers defenseman Ivan Provorov refused to wear an LGBTQ pride jersey while warming up before the game, citing his religious beliefs. The 26-year-old Russian said it was his choice to stay true to himself and his religion, saying, quote, "I respect everyone, I respect everybody's choices." Provorov said he is Russian Orthodox. The NHL said in a statement to ESPN that players are, quote, "free to decide which initiatives to support." In addition to the jerseys, the team used hockey sticks with rainbow tape during warm-ups. And in college football, University of Florida recruit Jaden Rashada is asking out of his national letter of intent after his $13 million name, image, likeness deal fell through, according to the Associated Press. Rashada is a highly regarded high school quarterback from California who reportedly had a 4-year, $13 million agreement with the Gator Collective. Now, the Gator Collective is described as an independent fundraising organization that gives money to student athletes across all sports. And for your sports viewing schedule tonight, the NBA has 9 games planned, including the red-hot Memphis Grizzlies, winners of 10 straight, hosting the Cleveland Cavs. And finally, for you hockey fans, the NHL has 5 games on tap, featuring the defending champion Colorado Avalanche playing at the Calgary Flames. And that's it for your sports news. Back to you, Steph.
Thanks, Dave. And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox. Good night.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.